Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would seem that unbeaten up-and-comer in the men's featherweight division, and one of my personal favorites, Shakur Carrington, has been announced as a Ring Magazine brand ambassador. Here is to a rising star with a champion's mindset, wishing him every success on his journey to the top. So says the good people at Ring Magazine.
This basically aligns Shakur Carrington with Turki Alalshikh, since he is the owner of Ring Magazine, and now Bruce is a brand ambassador for the periodical.
Except that it's not just the periodical anymore. It's not just a magazine. We know that Ring is staging a good number of shows coming up under their own banner. So in some ways, it doubles as a promotional outfit. And I don't imagine that Top Rank likes it very much, Turki and Ring approaching their fighters, the ones they have under contract, like Shakur Carrington. But at the same time, if they can provide Bruce with opportunities,
Because I think they will.
that Top Rank themselves are not able to provide that fighter opportunities for money that they're not ready to kick out.
You know, what happened to Jared Anderson last year in August, when he fought on one of Turki's shows, on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov against Martin Bakole, I don't think that Top Rank liked that too much. But at the same time, for the money that they were providing Jared Anderson, they couldn't get in the way either.
Not for the amount of money that Turki was prepared to pay Jared Anderson to box on that show, though in boxing on that show, you saw what happened. Things went sideways for Jared Anderson. The saving grace with Bruce is that Bruce has a good head on his shoulders, and he is not spiraling out of control like Jared Anderson was.
Was stinking out the joint like Jared Anderson was. The writing was on the wall about Jared Anderson long before he boxed Martin Bakole, whereas Bruce is fighting, and he's winning, and he's looking good, and he wants a big opportunity. Ring Magazine might be able to provide him one. A bigger opportunity than Top Rank can by themselves.
World title shot. A world title opportunity.
On one of those Ring Magazine cards.
Bruce is a risky fight for a belt holder. He is a risky fight for a champion, to the point where Top Rank might have to kick out a lot of money to get him a title fight, whereas Ring Magazine...
What would it cost Top Rank to get him a Nick Ball fight? Or a Stephen Fulton fight?
An Angelo Leo or a Rafael Espinoza? What would it cost them, and is it a number they're willing to kick out? Because if it's not...
Here comes Turki!
Who some people are still trying to make out to be the bad guy for putting together fights that would not otherwise come together on their own. With Turki in his corner as a brand ambassador for Turki's Ring Magazine, Bruce may have the added benefit of boxing on one or some of Turki's shows, where he might put together fights that Top Rank struggles to put together.
No, I don't think Top Rank likes the idea of Turki approaching their fighters directly, but the added benefit is if they allow their fighters to box on one or some of his shows, they get their cut without having to spend any money, since all the money is coming from Turki.
You let the guy fight. If he wins, he comes back a hero. If he doesn't, you still got to make money without having to stake money.
Take money.
And Bruce doesn't exhibit any of the instability that we saw from Jared Anderson, that you can have faith in Bruce.
Take money.
Oh yes, I would give Bruce Carrington very good odds against either Nick Ball or Angelo Leo or Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton, who's rumored to be moving up in weight leaving the division just 2 fights into his featherweight campaign to go up to super feather and challenge O'Shaquie Foster, that division's WBC champion. And if he does that, Bruce may end up fighting former champion Ray Vargas.
For the newly vacated title, we know that Ray has made at least one appearance on Turkey shows. At least one. Could make another against Bruce.
What seems lost on a lot of people is Turkey's providing a kind of money that brings everybody to the table, whereas if you remove him from the equation, then it's just on Top Rank to do it. And Top Rank by themselves are not in the business of overpaying for fights and just giving money away.
I can almost guarantee they would not put up for a Carrington versus Vargas fight what Turkey would put up for a Carrington versus Vargas fight.
Boxing fans, at least in the American boxing scene, are at times hard to understand. And the trick is not trying to understand them and their views, but understanding they are of inferior birth, inferior intellects, inferior minds that cannot be reasoned with.
Can't waste good logic on illogical people, so you shouldn't try. I see the value of Turkey's continued presence in the sport of boxing and what opportunities he provides, not just the fighters, but the fight fans.
To see fights in a timely fashion that you may not have otherwise gotten to see. I don't think Bruce has a whole lot of time left. At 126 pounds at 27 years old, I don't imagine boiling down to that weight is getting easier. I give him until maybe the end of the year before he has to move up.
The end of this year or sometime in the beginning of the next one. So I would like to see him fight for a title before he goes.
Bruce versus any of the belt holders at 126 pounds makes for a fantastic fight, and it's the remedied step-up fight people have been asking him to have because some people are growing impatient and they want to see Bruce in there with a live body.
I do too. So maybe that's what this partnership heralds.
We're dealing with inflation in the real world right now, obviously, but also there was inflation into the boxing market because of this infusion of the Saudi money, which is what happened in PPC when they first came in as well. Also, Matchroom did the same thing. They had their big deal. They came in and they were paying premiums that were different than what we were used to, what the market was used to, and it elevates everybody. Right? When rising tides raises all ships, right? So champions get paid more, opponents get paid more, journeymen get paid more. I remember journeymen like asking for crazy money during those years when PBC first came on board, and it looks like maybe this is the first sign that it's coming to a close in terms of the endless money, the huge payouts. I can negotiate any price; it'll happen, but also you got to be the guy. Shakur Stevenson. Yes, he's one of the most talented fighters in the world. Yes, he will be pound for pound recognized once he gets in with those big names and does what we all know he can do. But is he putting butts in seats right now? Is he getting the eyes right now where he can really garner that negotiation, as we saw with like the Bivol better BF situation with Benavidez?
The question that Chris Algieri is getting at, so the checkbook's going to open for Shakur Stevenson, since he himself said that the number he was originally given for a William Zepeda fight has since changed, and it's lower than it was. Now, some are interpreting this as a bit of a betrayal on Turkey's part.
Is the well starting to dry up, and is Turkey's commitment to the sport of boxing now receding?
Or at minimum, his commitment towards getting Shakur Stevenson big fights for big money. Need I remind you that Turki Alalshikh already informed the boxing community at large last year that shows in Saudi are going to pay $1 amount and shows outside of Saudi are going to pay another. This was literally last year.
So where initially he had a plan to do Stevenson versus Zepeda during Riyadh season in Saudi,
now the plan has changed. They still want to move forward with the fight, but not for the same price and not at the same location, and thus the money is different. But he already informed all of you of this. So what you're really mad at is that you either weren't paying attention
or you have no short-term memory.
And leave it to the Americans to expect everyone to apologize for how stupid they are.
He's not blindsiding anybody. He told you guys this.
I am growing less and less interested in Shakur Stevenson's boxing career. It's not necessarily his fault, But at the end of the day, this is supposed to be entertainment. This is supposed to be entertaining, and it's not.
Starting to feel like a trip to the DMV whenever we talk about this guy.
Who he's not fighting, and what's not happening, and what the issue is now. It's boring.
Well, who doesn't want to fight Shakur now?
It's boring.
Who does want to fight Shakur now?
It's boring. Anything involving American fighters or American-based fighters or fighters that are promoted by American-based promoters, it all devolves into the same thing, the same conversation.
Boring.
I understand that Stevenson versus Zepeda is one of the better fights you can hope to make in the lightweight division. It's not so much better, that is. It's not so great a fight that it should take this long, or it should be this much of a discussion. I mean, this is one that you should be able to get over the line with relative ease, because William Zepeda, for as entertaining as he is, he's not a big-ticket seller.
Look, he's just a mandatory. That's all he is. If he has what it takes to become a champion, there's really only one way to find out.
And the fact that Oscar De La Hoya already held this fight to ransom for a signature from Shakur Stevenson tells you everything you need to know. Now, Shakur's having an issue with the money.
Understandable.
You were initially offered one number, and that number has since changed. But you're not in a position to make but so many demands, because you're not in demand. You leave it to the fighters, and they never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, want to go backwards on the money.
Even when the circumstances change, even when it's warranted, it's always supposed to be more, according to the fighters.
My question is, whatever number Shakur Stevenson was recently offered for that fight with William Zepeda, even though the number changed,
Even if it's not what you were initially offered, say you walk away from that number, you don't like it, who else is gonna give you more?
That Top Rank deal was a good fucking deal. It was a good deal. $3 million, guaranteed, 5 fights, $15
because that's what it all
million
boils down to.
with the
What are your
possibility of making
alternatives
more
to what's
depending
on the
fight.
table
You got
right
3
now?
belts
What do you
on your
got?
side of the street. There's 3 counting his. He'd have been the Earl Spence of the division, waiting for the Terrence Crawford, Gervonta Davis. Come on, man. Now you out here fucking begging for a Zepeda fight.
Looking into it, bro, it's a sad situation, bro. But nobody want to fight him, bro.
Top Rank would have found fighters to fight him. They would have eventually made the Loma fight. They had Murataya. Like, what are you doing? You fought Padley. Cool, you made $2 million more than what Top Rank was offering you. But guess what? How many fights did he would have had on Top Rank?
Not trying to take credit for Nestor Gibbs' recent take on that entire situation, but I literally said the same thing weeks ago, months ago.
Many, many months ago, when Shakur first achieved free agency, that here you have a guy who's trashing Top Rank, who's offering him the same money at a time when he's not in demand, at a time when his stock isn't high. They're still willing to pay you $3 million a fight, guaranteed, with the possibility of making more, depending on the opponent. At a time where you laid an egg in the Edwin De Los Santos fight, they invested a lot of time and a lot of money onto that card, and you laid an egg, and they're still offering you $3 million guaranteed? What are you, pouting that you couldn't get the Lomachenko fight? That guy's about to retire, and if he does, you could have got the winner of Murataya versus Abdulayev.
For that same IBF title. You don't want to fight your buddy Keyshawn Davis? You don't have to, because he's about to move up soon anyway.
Somebody's gonna pick up that WBO. Somebody's gonna pick up that brown belt after he does, and when he does, if you were still at Top Rank, you could have got that guy.
You have to wonder if Shakur Stevenson made the right decision. Is he better off now than he would have been had he re-signed to Top Rank?
But there's a lot of people that like to paint a picture where Top Rank is always a bad guy.
Because this fighter is upset, because that fighter's pouting, because this dude wants more money.
Shut the hell up.
Don't know what the hell you're talking about. In hindsight being 2020, you have to wonder if he wouldn't have been better off at Top Rank, because right now what you're doing is angling for a Zepeda fight. He should be angling for you.
That's the biggest fight you could be in right now? William Zepeda fight?
And what people are holding to is this narrative that Top Rank mistreated Floyd Mayweather. They didn't believe in him, and it wasn't until he branched out on his own that he achieved real success. That may be true for Floyd Mayweather, but everybody ain't Floyd Mayweather.
Me two-ass mother...
Yeah, that's what it is. Everybody's applying Floyd Mayweather's story to their own their own story, when you're not Floyd.
Floyd was fighting at these weights, 130, 135. He was a very different fighter The you guys, you safety first guys. You guys fight like you're 36 years old now.
Look at these young guys that are in their mid to late 20s boxing like they're in their mid to late 30s with hand issues.
You're emulating the wrong Floyd.
Whatever, man. Because you young guys, nobody can talk to you, and you got it all figured out.
Whatever. Hopefully he gets William Zepeda in the ring, and if he doesn't, then he doesn't.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the proposed price points for the two cards in May, the Ryan Garcia versus Rolly Romero card in New York, and the Canelo versus Skull fight in Saudi.
If the consumer chooses to purchase one of these pay-per-views individually and not the other, it will run them approximately $60.
And if they choose to buy both as part of an offered bundle, it will cost them roughly $90. $89.99 round up, it's $90.
What do you think?
I think it's value for money, is what I think. I think it's a steal for a full weekend of boxing, but some people, they're not happy with this arrangement. I guess they were expecting that the pay-per-views would cost $25 a piece, roughly $50 for both.
Because that's what the Better B versus B-Vol fights costed.
So let me put this to you another way. Let's say that Canelo Alvarez weren't working with Turki and he were still over there at the PBC. Well, if he were still over there at the PBC, you'd still have to pay the same amount of money to see him, but you'd only be getting one card instead of two.
Roughly the same amount, because the price point for a pay-per-view on Amazon is in the neighborhood of $80.
And so for $9 more, you get two pay-per-views instead of just one with a forgettable undercard.
It's value for money.
Nobody's paying me to say this. I'm not in cahoots with anybody. I'm not getting kickbacks from Turki to promote his cards. I'm a customer that regularly buys pay-per-views. And for my money, for paying $80 for one pay-per-view, I'm willing to pay $89 for two.
Canelo Alvarez fights on pay-per-view exclusively, so it's gonna run you that dollar amount regardless whether it's on a Turki show or a PBC show.
Now, I understand that Turki initially said that he wants to keep the price point of pay-per-views down. In the neighborhood of $25.
And that's what you were expecting.
I don't blame you, but looking at this, it's still a steal. It's still value for money, and it's still less than what the competition is offering.
That's the bottom line.
So I'll pay the $89. I'll pay the $89 because how many times do you get to see Teofimo, Devin, and Ryan all on the same show, on the same bill?
And as part of that purchase, you get to see an undisputed title fight between Canelo and William Skull. I think it's worth it. Now, if you don't...
What that tells me is you're not actually a customer. You can't be. Because for you to be a customer, paying $80 to see fights like Benavidez versus Morel, or Benavidez versus Vazdik,
Davis versus Martin, Davis versus Roach, every single one of those cards costs $80. This way, you're actually getting more for your money, more than what you normally get.
So if you're normally paying that, then you'll look at this and say, this is all right, I'll take it. If you're normally paying that, but if you're not,
you're giving it away that all you do is steal shit.
And people hate when I point that out, that these guys are always showing their cards that they're not actually buying any of this stuff, because if they were, they'd see the value. But because they're not, they complain.
Why complain if you're gonna steal it anyway?
Because there are people out there that'll try to make Turki out to be the bad guy any way they can. They got some strange kind of love affair with Al Heyman and his PBC. They view Turki and the cards he's doing as the ops, the opposition, as the kids like to say.
Oh, goddamn thing is stupid.
$89 and you get to see not one but two pay-per-views for the price of one, practically one.
You're complaining?
So, I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna enjoy that weekend, and then I'm gonna watch Inouye Box on that Sunday afterwards on ESPN. That's what I'm gonna do.
And probably you're gonna order some Italian, couple of Coronas.
And I'm gonna enjoy the show.